The Cleveland Browns are officially in crisis mode. A fifth-round rookie just flipped the team dynamic on its head. Veterans are quietly choosing sides, and the front office is scrambling to contain a narrative that's already sprinted out the door. And now, with mysterious leaked interview tape of Shedeur Sanders throwing the NFL's old guard evaluation playbook into chaos, the Browns might have to answer one terrifying question. Is their backup QB actually their best QB? If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. And did they try to hide it? You blinked, and suddenly Shedeur Sanders wasn't just a fifth-round rookie anymore. He's a conversation in Cleveland. And not just among fans watching training camp clips on TikTok. He's being talked about behind closed doors, whispered about in team meetings, quietly respected by veterans, and very noticeably avoided by certain coaching staff when it comes to giving him a real shot at QB1 reps. It didn't start this way. When Sanders was drafted in the fifth round, the move barely made a ripple. Nice depth, some analysts said. He'll develop behind Watson. Others shrugged. But by the time minicamp ended, that narrative had evaporated. Shedeur was out there making throws most rookies wouldn't dare to attempt, and more importantly, he was hitting them. Clean, confident, controlled. No panic. No panic in the pocket. No panic in the press. Just steady work. And laser-precise passes. It wasn't long before Browns veterans started noticing, and then talking. What they were saying wasn't subtle. He's the real deal. We trust him in the huddle. He's got it. And just like that, the Browns found themselves with an unexpected problem. The kid who was supposed to quietly sit behind Deshaun Watson might just be better than him right now. And then came the tape. Out of nowhere, NFL insiders began murmuring about a leaked pre-draft interview between Shedeur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns brass. A meeting that, by all reports, was supposed to be routine. But what we got instead was drama fuel. In the snippet that made its way to the public, though suspiciously edited, Sanders is heard pushing back on a line of questioning, holding his own with confidence. To some, it came off as bold. To others, arrogant. But here's the thing. The full tape has never been released. And that's exactly why this has turned into a storm of suspicion. Because if Sanders had truly bombed the interview, wouldn't the Browns, or someone else, just release the full footage to justify why he fell to the fifth round? Instead, we got half a sentence, stripped of context, followed by weeks of silence from the team. The fans? Not buying it. Commentators? Divided. NFL Twitter? In flames. The speculation is simple. If the Browns thought he failed the personality test, why are they now putting him in with the second team at practice? Why is he climbing the depth chart so quickly? Why is Deshaun Watson reportedly watching his shoulder with increasing unease? And if Sanders didn't bomb that interview, who's trying to sabotage him and why? Let's talk about the elephant in the locker room, Deshaun Watson. The $230 million fully guaranteed elephant, to be exact. The Browns made an all-in bet on Watson, and so far, the return has been dicey at best. Legal distractions, PR nightmares, on-field inconsistency, and now, a fifth-round rookie with better tape, better composure, and better momentum. This is a situation no front office ever wants. The cheaper, younger option is outperforming the investment, and every rep Shedeur gets with the twos, every highlight that leaks from camp, tightens the pressure. But here's the catch. Making Shedeur the starter too early could fracture the team's public message, turn Watson's contract into a front office scandal, and set the Browns up for a media circus. Which is why, instead of embracing Sanders outright, the organization seems to be doing everything possible to downplay his rise. They're walking the tightrope, carefully managing optics, feeding fans just enough hope to stay engaged, but not enough to create a full-blown QB controversy. Spoiler alert, it's too late. We're already there. If you want to understand just how big this has gotten, look no further than the national media. Colin Cowherd, once a vocal skeptic of Shedeur's coach's son attitude, has now pivoted so hard he might have whiplash. He's praising Shedeur's mechanics as discipline and calling him more NFL ready than most people thought. Shannon Sharpe, All in. He's gone from defender to prophet, insisting Shedeur is being mishandled, misunderstood, and possibly undervalued on purpose. Meanwhile, Browns fans are picking sides in comment sections and talk radio shows like it's a civil war. Team Watson versus Team Sanders. But the players? They've already made up their minds. Myles Garrett has complimented Sanders' leadership. Receivers are asking for more reps with him. Even a few defensive starters reportedly trust him to run the 2-minute drill more efficiently. This isn't just media noise anymore. It's a movement, and the Browns are either going to harness it or get swallowed by it. Let's talk business for a second. Shedeur Sanders is on a rookie contract. Cheap, flexible, team-friendly. Deshaun Watson is on one of the most bloated, unmovable contracts in NFL history. The math shouldn't matter in football, but it does. The team that embraces Shedeur early could free up cap space, rebuild around a young nucleus, and avoid the soul-crushing reality of spending $230 million on mediocrity. The Browns know this. The fans know this. The only question is, will the owners admit it? Jimmy Haslam and the front office are staring down a decision that could define the next 5 years of Cleveland football. If they bend Shedeur to protect an old investment, they risk losing the locker room, the fans, and potentially the future. But if they back Sanders too early and he struggles, same story, same cycle. Another almost. So what do? Right now, it looks like they're stalling, keeping Shedeur close enough to matter, but far enough to not disrupt the status quo. But that can't last forever. Every day that goes by without clarity, Shedeur Sanders gets more dangerous. Not just because he might win the starting job, but because he's already won the narrative. He's the underdog with swagger, the kid from Boulder who was supposed to fade into background, but instead might bulldoze his way into Cleveland sports history. And every incomplete pass from Deshaun, every clip highlight from practice, every silence from the Browns front office only adds fuel to fire. Sanders doesn't need to win over the media. He already has. He doesn't need to silence critics. They've gone quiet on their own. All he needs now is a shot. And when that happens, whether it's week 8 or sooner, the NFL will be watching. Because the truth is, Shedeur Sanders was never just another draft pick. He's the Browns' best-kept secret and the league's worst-kept problem. So what happens next? Do the Browns finally lean in and give Sanders the keys? Or does the front office play defense, protecting a crumbling legacy while a future star waits on the sideline? Only one thing for sure. You can't put this genie back in the bottle. The fans are watching. The players are talking. And the NFL? The NFL is waking up to a new reality. The era of Shedeur Sanders has already begun. By now, it's obvious the Browns aren't just dealing with a quarterback battle. They're facing a full-on identity crisis. And Shedeur Sanders? He's at the center of it all. For years, this franchise has operated like it's allergic to clarity at the QB position. Names come in, names go out. Big contracts, broken promises, flashy trades that fizzle. The Browns never seem to know if they're rebuilding or contending. They're constantly caught in between, a franchise haunted by almosts. But here comes Sanders, a 5th-round pick with first-round presence, and he's daring them to choose. Will they build around the future, or cling to the ghosts of past investments? This is about more than quarterbacking. It's about who the Browns want to be. The team that believes in homegrown talent? The franchise that finally gets out of its own way? Or the same old Cleveland, clutching onto pride and poor decisions until they're mathematically eliminated from playoff contention by Thanksgiving? Behind the curtains, the locker room is shifting. You can feel it in the press conferences. You can hear it in the mic'd up moments. The energy is different when Shedeur takes the field, even in practice. There's electricity, something that feels less like a rookie filling in and more like a natural leader taking charge. Some of the veterans are watching closely. Guys like Amari Cooper, Nick Chubb, and Myles Garrett. Players who have been through enough coaching changes and quarterback shuffles to know when a spark is real, and they're reportedly impressed. Not just with Shedeur's throws, but with his voice in the huddle, his rhythm, his composure. It's not about the stats anymore. It's about presence, and he's got it. Meanwhile, whispers are coming out of the facility. Some offensive players want Sanders taking more reps. They're not saying it in front of cameras, but the body language is loud. And Deshaun Watson? Let's just say he's no longer the unquestioned leader of the offense. The pressure isn't just coming from within. It's coming from everywhere. Local media outlets are starting to question why Shedeur isn't seeing more time with the ones. Every radio show is running polls. Who should start week 1, Shedeur or Watson? Fan blogs are doing film breakdowns. TikTok is obsessed. ESPN panels are debating his NFL readiness like it's a presidential primary. And Jimmy Haslam? Well, let's not forget this is the same owner who dropped $230 million on Watson and fought through one of the most controversial trades in NFL history just to land him. If Shedeur starts, it's not just a coaching call. It's a PR tsunami. Admitting that a rookie outperformed the $230 million man is more than embarrassing. It's legacy-threatening. It calls into question everything from their talent evaluation to their ethics. But keeping Shedeur off the field too long? That's even worse. Because fans know what they're seeing. They're not stupid. And Cleveland fans? They've been through it all. They know a good quarterback when they see one. They just haven't had the chance to watch one for very long. Then comes the bombshell. The full interview footage is leaked. Not by the Browns. Not by the league. By an anonymous source. Probably someone close to Shedeur's camp. And guess what? It doesn't show arrogance. It doesn't show attitude. It shows a poised young quarterback being grilled by a panel of stone-faced executives, calmly walking through offensive concepts, asking questions, even laughing at one point. The controversial line? The one where Sanders allegedly said, "Maybe I'm not the guy for you." In context, it's a joke, a response to being asked how he'd handle being passed over in the draft. The leak confirms what fans suspected all along. The smear campaign was smoke and mirrors, an attempt to control the narrative, to justify letting Shedeur fall in the draft without admitting they just missed. The fallout is swift. National pundits start walking back their takes. Colin Cowherd releases a statement calling the Browns old school and out of touch. Shannon Sharpe goes on a full 10-minute rant about media manipulation and how these kids aren't just athletes, they're brands. You try to destroy one and you will get exposed. Suddenly, Sanders isn't just the Browns' best quarterback. He's their best story. As the preseason winds down, the elephant in the room becomes impossible to ignore. Who's starting week 1? Kevin Stefanski gives his usual coy pressers. We're evaluating all options. There's no timetable on decisions. We like the progress we're seeing from all our quarterbacks, but fans aren't buying it. The chants at training camp are louder than ever. Shedeur. At this point, keep him off the field would be malpractice, but starting him would be unprecedented. No fifth-round quarterback has started a regular season opener since 1977, and no franchise has needed one to as badly as the Browns need him now. It's not just about one game. It's about shifting the energy of a team, a city, and a legacy that's been haunted by what-ifs and has-beens. If Shedeur starts week 1 and wins, it'll be the beginning of a new era. If he starts and struggles, at least you tried. At least you admitted you were ready for something new. But if you bench him out of fear, you lose the locker room. You lose the fans. You lose the moment. What happens next is out of Shedeur's hands. He's done the work. He's passed the eye test. He survived the media machine. He's turned anonymous sources into believers and skeptics into cheerleaders. All that's left is for the Browns to make a choice. Do they embrace the spark or suffocate it? Because here's the thing about a player like Shedeur Sanders. Once the spotlight hits you, you don't fade away. You own it, or it owns you. And whether Cleveland likes it or not, that spotlight is here. Shedeur Sanders wasn't supposed to be Cleveland's quarterback of the future. But then again, neither was Tom Brady. Neither was Russell Wilson. Sometimes, the stars don't ask for permission. They just show up. And if the Browns don't hand him the keys now, they'd better hope someone else doesn't. Because if Shedeur Sanders ever lands in the hands of a team that actually believes in him, they won't just regret the missed opportunity. They'll be watching him run the league from a barstool in January. There's something about Cleveland in late summer. That strange tension in the air not quite fall, not quite preseason, and definitely not peace. Because this isn't just training camp anymore. It's a chess match played on turf, and all eyes are locked on one square: Shedeur Sanders. The Browns might not say it out loud, but the building buzz around Sanders has gone from novelty to inevitability. You can feel it in the sidelines, in the locker room glances, in the way players talk around his name in interviews. They all know what's happening, even if the coaching staff pretends nothing has changed. There's always a moment when a rookie crosses a line from "he's coming along" to "oh, he's here." For Shedeur, that moment didn't happen during some dramatic Hail Mary or viral throw. It happened in a quiet drill, 7-on-7, when he audibled at the line, saw the linebacker cheating the inside route, and dropped a perfect sideline dime that hit his receiver without breaking stride. No celebration, no scream. He just jogged back like it was a walk in the park. And that's the thing. Shedeur doesn't try to command the room. He just does. The Browns' quarterback room, once a strange cocktail of overpaid veterans and untested backups, suddenly has clarity. Clarity with a 5-letter name and a chip on his shoulder the size of Lake Erie. And it's putting pressure on the guys who were supposed to have a lock seat at the table. Deshaun Watson hears it. Don't let anyone tell you different. When a crowd of fans cheers louder for the rookie taking second-team snaps than the $230 million man warming up in the red zone, it's impossible to ignore. Watson still gets the politically correct support from Stefanski in interviews, but even the press corps has grown tired of the script. You can almost hear them biting their tongues every time he talks about quarterback competition. They know it. The fans know it. The players know it. Watson's leash isn't just short. It's fraying. And still, Shedeur keeps his head down. That's the part that's really getting to people. The humility. The calm. He could take the bait and fan the flames. But instead, he ducks questions with veteran poise. They ask about the leaked interview. He laughs it off. They ask about Watson. He says, "We're just focused on winning." They ask about the fans chanting his name. He shrugs. "That's for y'all. I'm just trying to get better every day." But behind that calm, there's fire. His reps have increased subtly, just a few more plays here and there. But insiders have noticed the ball's coming out faster. The huddle cadence is sharper. And more importantly, the offense responds to him. You can't fake that kind of chemistry. Not in the NFL. Meanwhile, the coaching staff plays tightrope politics. Stefanski is in a tough spot, publicly backing Watson while privately prepping contingency plans. Because no matter how much ownership wants to justify that massive contract, the tape doesn't lie. Watson has looked shaky. His reads are slow. His footwork is still off. And worst of all, the locker room seems indifferent. No one's turning on him, but no one's rallying behind him either. But with Sanders, that's different. Receivers are staying late to get extra reps. Offensive linemen are nodding in respect after he runs a 2-minute drill. Even defensive players, normally stingy with praise, have been overheard calling him sharp and legit. One unnamed veteran reportedly told a beat reporter, "He's got that **T. You can't coach that." And in the world of professional football, that's the highest compliment you can get. Off the field, the public perception has shifted wildly. What started as a firestorm of negativity, people calling him arrogant, entitled, riding his father's coattails, has now morphed into admiration. The same fans who question his draft attitude are now defending him online, calling out the hypocrisy of a league that's let far worse behavior slide, while trying to paint Sanders as the villain for being confident. There's even growing suspicion about whether certain franchises orchestrated the smear campaign to drop his stock. After all, if you can get a franchise-caliber quarterback in the 5th round for pennies on the dollar, why wouldn't you tank his value ahead of the draft? It's the kind of cold strategy teams have pulled for decades. Only now, social media catches everything. That interview leak? Instead of burying Shedeur, it ignited the fan base. It made him relatable. It made him human. And most importantly, it made him the underdog. In the NFL, there's no role more beloved than the underestimated quarterback with something to prove. Cleveland knows that story well. They've lived through couch quarterbacks, one-year wonders, and broken promises. Shedeur is different, not because he's perfect, but because he feels real. A kid with swagger, who also happens to put in the work. A rookie who doesn't shy away from expectations, but also doesn't demand the spotlight. The Browns now face a familiar but brutal dilemma. Do you stick with the name on the paycheck, or go with the guy who's moving the chains? The countdown to Week 1 has begun, and every practice, every throw, every quote carries weight. Fans are already imagining it. Shedeur running out of the tunnel to start the home opener. The crowd roaring. The cameras panning to Shedeur Sanders in the box, nodding quietly as his son jogs the huddle. It's cinematic. It's emotional. And for once, it feels possible. But this isn't Hollywood. It's the NFL, and politics still matter. If Shedeur stumbles even once in preseason, they'll rush to bench him. If Watson has one decent game, they'll double down and call it redemption. The margin for error is razor thin, and Shedeur knows it. That's why he's staying locked in. No distractions. No sound bites. Just football. And quietly, he's winning hearts. Not just in Cleveland. Across the league. Former players are speaking up. Guys like RJ and Michael Vick praising his mechanics and poise. Analysts who wrote him off during the draft are now revisiting the footage, pointing out things they missed. Even national networks are circling the wagon, prepping for the rise of Shedeur's segments just in case he gets the nod. Because they know if he gets that start and delivers, it's over. The entire narrative flips. Suddenly, the Browns go from being the franchise that can't get it right to the one that finally pulled off the steal of the decade. And for Sanders, it's a vindication that goes beyond football. It means he didn't need the first-round hype. He didn't need the media love. He didn't need the league's approval. He just needed a chance. And now, he's inches away from getting it. As the preseason finale looms, Cleveland's front office faces a decision of the year. Go with the old investment, or ride the momentum of something new, something raw, something potentially transformative. It's not just about wins. It's about building identity. Because Shedeur Sanders doesn't just represent potential. He represents change. And in a city starved for a fresh chapter, sometimes change is the only thing worth believing in.